We got lore, we got transformations, we got Lucius being an absolute menace, we got Lucius again being an absolute menace, we got Lucius being an absolute menace once more, and we got Asta and Liba, and we got Lucida, and we got anti-magic YUNO. Oh my goodness, guys, I cannot contain my excitement about it. Absolutely popped off with these two chapters of Black Clover that we got this issue of Jump Giga, and I cannot wait to get into it and break it down. So make sure you like and subscribe, and with that out of the way, let's get into it, man. First off, we have an amazing color spread, right? There's fantastic use of the colors here. It gives you that real classical fantasy setting feeling, you know, something that I want Tabata to do more of, because Black Clover is like more of a battle shonen, right? It's set in a fantasy world, but it is not a fantasy first and foremost. And I really wish that Tabata's next manga was a fantasy first, because things like Frieren are a fantasy first and battle shonen second, right? So I wish Tabata would do something like that, because it's more focused on the fights and abilities and, you know, all of that stuff, rather than the world itself. And this spread just gave me that warm, fuzzy, like classical fantasy feeling. And talking about classical fantasy, if you like fantasy literature, one of the Black Clover content creators that we used to have back in the day, a YouTuber by the name of WK Minato, just finished writing his first full-length novel, fantasy novel, and it's going to be so shonen. It's going to be inspired by Black Clover, you can already tell. And I've read through part 1 of it, and it's just absolutely fantastic. The character writing is great. Like, honestly, you really don't understand how good this is, and I would definitely recommend that you guys check it out. It's going to be coming out in July. I will link his website down below in the description. But with that out of the way, let's keep going. Also, I obviously wish Ghost did not show up here. He's like one of my least favorite characters in the entire manga. And also Mimosa, just, you know, sitting over Asta implies that she'll probably be the one to heal him, you know, given the events of this chapter. Also, assuming that, you know, like, since Mimosa's here with Asta, that YUNO actually sent Asta to her at the end of the chapters, right? Also, we see Rill and Ghost here, probably because of the first page and the events that take place there. But I also wonder if Charmy and Fuego will play a role in the next issue or not, given the fact that the previous issue's color spread kind of, you know, is in line with what happens in these two chapters. So I'm assuming that this could also be an indication of things to come for the next issue. All right, so let's move on. We see the Bulls fight, right? If Tabata was still weekly, I feel like we would have gotten incredible battles, and, you know, obviously we probably would have soured on Lucius due to the overexposure of it all, because he is the only person that they're all fighting. But just my goodness, man, look at William's forearms. It's insane. I want to see how this would have worked out. Like, I want to see what exactly the you know, like the sword that he's using is it like a reference, like is Tabata like slightly winking to the fact that William's original magic was sword magic, given the fact that Licht was supposed to be housed in his body? Like, what exactly is going on there? And, you know, are we ever gonna get more lore on the world tree magic that he has, which is so weird? You know, like, what exactly is that from, right? And the next crazy thing that we see is the Rill's crucifixion spell. What an insane like imagery right there, right? I would also say go to Jack Oates' Twitter for more info on the lore there. He used to be a YouTuber on here. He used to make fantastic videos, and now he's on Twitter, just like making up, you know, writing up fantastic articles and like coming to great conclusions on various tweets and stuff like that. So definitely, you know, shout him out. Go look for him. And also, I would say, like, given the fact that we actually see William and Charlotte just unassisted by Gordon here, and same thing for Henry, who's just in the Bulls hideout, we don't see that Gordon is touching them. So, you know, it looks like the friendly neighbor spell that Gordon used to, you know, use to dispel the curses does not actively require his physical touch anymore, right? So there's like a small growth for him over there. And all right, the next page, the advent of the Wizard Emperor goes so hard. I wish Visit translated the Ultimate Wizard King that we got in chapter 331 into Wizard Emperor instead. So I really like this change that they've brought here, and I really am intrigued by Lucius's design, despite, you know, not being a fan of the aesthetics. I really wonder what this aesthetic is born from. Like, what is the source for how this, you know, Tabata decided to design the angels, paladins, and stuff like that. You know, I'm curious as to how that came about, but I will be honest, I'm not a big fan of the aesthetics overall, right? I am intrigued by the flying horns that are initially supposed to be Weg occurs. The metaphysics of the Weg are interesting, you know, and are far more interesting sorry, and the purified form of Weg is far more interesting as well, right? Like what exactly is going on there? How is purifying Weg, like how does that work, and what does that mean ultimately, right? And the alterations we see to Lucius's body feel like Weg, but like a Weg for angels. So instead of curse, like could you call that a blessing, right? But again, this is curse transformed into a blessing, right? So how does that work exactly? And if there's a curse magic, is there going to be a blessing magic, you know? So these are things that I'm curious about. So the most interesting thing about this spread, apart from the obvious design, is the fact that I'm very curious about the fact that Tabata decided to draw him with the time magic grimoire. I feel like this is significant because every time that we've seen Lucius use the time magic, Lucius use soul magic, he's used the spade grimoire, right? And the time grimoire, just, you know, it's used somewhere here and there. But I don't know, man. This is definitely a lot more interesting, more significant implications to the coverless grimoire, right? Like I feel like it extends even beyond Astaroth. I feel like we're eventually gonna get it connected to heaven or like some kind of angel or something like that, because like how would a devil have a grimoire, right? It can't be time magic grimoire. It doesn't make sense unless Astaroth is the first or the only devil before Zagreus to have ever you know, gotten hold of a grimoire that was initially belonging to a four-leaf you know, holder. But ultimately I don't think that that's the case, you know. So beyond Astaroth, I feel like the coverless grimoire is something very interesting, and Julius in fact was chosen, right? Like there is something special about him apart from being Lucius's, you know, other half, right? And moving forward, like we see that Lucius took a lot of time to create these clones, right? So he seems to have created it over a period of time. Now I wonder if that's the 7 days that he took for Judgment Day, or if he had actually been doing this prior to attacking Asta in chapter 332. It seems reasonable that this is something that he's been doing for a while. So like, why would he choose to kill Asta 7 days before Judgment Day? He could have lured YUNO out at any point, right? So that's clearly not the reason. So why that day specifically? Maybe the clone that he sent was like the first one that he made, and he wanted to test it out before his original body started to merge with the floating candela, which, you know, could have taken the 7 days and started to link with the Grimoire Towers once the Judgment Day attacks began, right? Also, since his body is literally created by the floors of the candela itself, can we safely assume that the floating candela is created using blood, bone, and flesh? That is creepy as all hell, man, I have to say. Right, and then let's move on to the Grimoire part of it. I have a lot to say. I have a lot, like so much to say about the Grimoire revelations in these chapters, and it's kind of, no, you know what, I think it's too much for this video. So you know what, I'll save my thoughts. Like I have so much written, like I had a full you know, like video length analysis made for that, so I think I should make it into a separate video. But I will say that this is truly an answer that gives rise to 1,000 more questions. Lore revelations that do that are the absolute best, but also like they're the most frustrating, you know. So kudos to Tabata, but also like, what the hell, man? Can we get something finally concrete? This is the literal last arc, right? I still love it. But yeah, like outside the lore, like we do see that the roots of the purified Cliffars are the ones that connected to the towers. So does that mean that if like Asa cuts these roots, the connection to the Grimoire Towers will be stilled? And also, most interestingly, why only the towers of the Clover Kingdom? He literally says this kingdom, right? So we assume that he has clones attacking the other kingdoms, though we haven't really like seen it at the scale that we've seen it in the Clover Kingdom. So why not another clone performing the same gargantuan spell connecting to the towers of the other kingdoms, if they're not being attacked by Lucius, that is. But like, assuming they're not being attacked by Lucius, can we expect them to show up now, like the characters in the other kingdoms? The situation at the Clover Kingdom right now is extremely dire, right? There's no Neverland or anti-magic for the troops on land, and we know that for RYUZEN to arrive there has to be something else to happen, because Hino is a very difficult place to get to and from, right? And even if they do show up, I doubt that the sheer numbers that the RYUZEN would be enough. I would be interested into, you know, in seeing if the whole situation that we've gotten here and the fact that Lucius might not be attacking the other kingdoms could lead to characters like Mars and GADJA like finally arriving at the Clover Kingdom and joining them in battle, right? It now feels like just the Clover Kingdom versus like the insane you know, god killer or whatever you want to call Lucius, right? It feels like the whole world has to band together. It's only Lucida, sorry, no, what's her name, Ichika, that's the only non-Clover Kingdom citizen here. So I don't know, man, I just feel like there has to be a bigger battlefield with the entire world combined, right? Right, so next up is the phenomenal character showcase from Lucius. This is what makes a villain menacing and worth fearing and even respecting. Yeah, an antagonist whose whole importance to the plot relies on his threat needs to show us why he is a threat. You cannot get away with lethal attacks that do not last every time. You cannot get away with lasting lethal attacks on faces that we've never even had emotional connections to, either the audience or even the characters at hand, right? Like even if we know that, oh wow, Haman died, like okay, cool. Even if you're not connecting him to me, maybe if you had connected him to Yuno, I would have felt bad. But no, I don't care, right? Killing Marks was so crucial. Right? Like, yeah, sure, I don't have a personal emotional connection with Marks, but Marks has a phenomenal connection to Julius. I'll make a video on this whole concept later, but just like the overall showing of Lucius within fractions of a second, disappearing all three of them, and within a single heartbeat killing all of them, like it's what I like. It's crazy. It's so menacing. His control is incredible, right? He just willed their deaths because of I'm sure because he has their souls in his hand, right? It is scary that he can simply do this, and the only thing that's stopping Lucius from doing it for everybody else is a relentless attack on him that occupies his mind and body from Asta and Yuno, which is what makes it so interesting and important that Yuno gets caught by Revchi's chain magic and Asta goes down later in the chapter, because hey, if those two stop for even a minute, like Lucius is just destroying everybody, because the only moment where Lucius got time again, he resurrected angels from the dead, humans down there, and he resurrected the paladins again. So you give him a moment and he will use it, and I love that. He's just Tabata's written him to be so competent, right? He simply shoots all the way up to the top of the BC list of villains just for doing this, surpassing even Patri just purely as a threat, right? Like even his character writing, sure, like it's clearly better, but just purely as a threat, yeah, he had that crazy attack from Patri, but beyond that, what exactly did he do, right? Like I don't know, man. Lucius is he's so good. He's just fantastic. I think he purely is the best written villain. Just forget about flashbacks and stuff like that. Like that's not what makes a villain great. It's just the showing, right? The show out that he needs to do, and he, like Lucius, is doing it, man. He is genuinely insane. Now, more interesting and somewhat overlooked thus far is, like I said, the Revchi of it all, right? The first antagonist the story ever presents is pulled back now, and his magic is used once again to restrain Yuno, and it actually works. It's a great callback and a payoff from a previous time where Asta saves Yuno from the spell, but the fact that it actually worked again means that if anti-magic wasn't in the equation, Yuno is cooked. It's crazy. We'll get back to this concept a little later on, but it is a point to keep in mind that Revchi's magic actually works on a Yuno that is this powerful. Moving on, right? We have Ryu in Asta's ear stating the obvious like a dumbass. I made a tweet about this, but it's so hilarious, bro. Like, Asta, you already know this, but that Lucius is a bad it's like crazy. I'm like, oh my god, thank you for telling me, Ryu. Oh, I've not been fighting this guy like for the last however many minutes or seconds or whatever, for you to tell me like, oh, he's actually serious, bro. Like, oh, thanks, man. What the fuck, dude? I don't care like that you're saying that. I know it, right? But that's not what Tabata uses him for ultimately, right? He uses him as a tool to inform us of the gem at the center of Lucius's body where magic is being poured into, right? I'd assume that this implies that even if Lucius's body is completely destroyed, as long as the gem is unharmed, he can probably keep returning. So we have our final like object to destroy to win placed here, and I'm curious to see what exactly Lucius hopes to do with this gem. Like I do believe that it would be incredibly stupid to just have it house his soul, because it would only require a single Zetan from Asta, like Ryu says. So, and I hope that it's more like of a stepping stone to the next phase of Lucius's plan, rather than like a simplistic plot device for Tabata to get out of like having Lucius be defeated in an interesting way. I really hope that it's not just one slash to the gem and it's done. I just feel like there has to be a more interesting way to defeat Lucius than just that. And I love Lucius's little dialogues to Asta talking about resurrecting him and giving him magic. Like, don't worry, little buddy, God, he fucked up with you, but I got you. You gotta die first, but then I got you. It's so psychotic, and again, like I said, it just elevates him as a villainic presence. And then finally, for the first chapter, we have the Lucida moment. Again, what an incredible incredible villain showcase from Lucius. Far more demented than anything any other villain in the story has done, and him taking so much glee in it with his, like I've said this before on Twitter too, his rancid smile is just perfection, man. And I love to see Liba get some love from a story perspective as well, because he's simply been dormant for the entire final arc thus far. Like 48 chapters for him to get meaningful dialogue and a meaningful moment, and it's great to see Lucida be the inception of that. And I really find it poignant that Asta was simply ready to cut Lucida down, proving the growth that he underwent at Hino after, you know, being unable to defeat Sister Lily. But almost like a response to my problems with Libe not having a role in Hino, we see what, you know, like Libe also not learning the lesson in Hino causes and costs him right here. He can't cut her, so the union comes undone, and Lucius cuts them again in the exact same manner that he did in chapter, what was it, 334, 333? And I gotta say, I love the consistency with the power system, where the goals have to be exactly aligned to get a union in sort of a contract, in the sort of contract that Asta and Libe have for each other, and, you know, which is the same thing as the spirit contract, right? It's great stuff. And oh man, how tough is Yuno's shield? Like, my god, not a single scratch, man. What the hell? Also, just as an aside, I want to say that I'm so glad that Lucius realized that he had to check if Asta really died, because last time he thought he died, he didn't. So at least he's being smart about it. And let's be honest here, this kind of characterization absolutely matters. This is someone who's been shown to be extremely smart and powerful, egoistic but still cautious. So if this did not happen, this would have been bad characterization. It's so good that we got this. And honestly, the whole part of him being egotistic and still cautious and all of that, I have another video that's coming up, and I know I've been saying this a lot, but again, like, this chapter alone, it's just like, it gave so much content to me, right? Like, so many thoughts that have been rattling around in my brain, just, you know, enhanced right now, right, because of this chapter. And there's just so much to talk about with Lucius. And I think finally, like, it was not the case until recently, right? Like, he was just clones, right? We didn't have a lot from him, but now just seeing him actively on the battlefield, it's given enough that I think that you can start doing analyses on him before we even get like a final flashback from him, right? The Zugratis flashback. And, you know, I'm definitely going to be doing a video on him and like his connection to the Triad, and how Tabata is interweaving the psychological elements of the Dark Triad into this one character. And he's just great, man. He's fantastic. All right, so everything in that chapter I've covered except for that one panel. Yeah, I got, like I said, for Lucius, like I said before as well, I have too much to say. I just have way too much to say, so I'll leave this for a discussion video or a full theory video down the line. But this panel has seemingly again bolstered the famous time travel theory, given that Lucius is visiting Lucida in Julius's Wizard King robes that Julius would have only gotten, what, about like 12 years before now, not 18 or earlier, right? Which is what we assume Lucida, which is when we assume Lucida died. So we'll talk about that later, but I find it really interesting that Lucida isn't bleeding out like you'd expect her to after Lucifero impaled her, right? That is interesting. I'm just gonna put that out there before I make that video, but yeah, I'm just pointing that out. And also, it appears that Ryu's ability allows him to look into the past as well. Like, what the hell? So it's like omniscience for all events in the present, and specified omniscience in the past, specified events for in the past, like assuming you focus on a thread. Like, he focused on Lucida and Lucius together, and he saw that scene. So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. I'm intrigued. I'm confused. Let's see how it shakes out and how Ryu's powers work. And I wonder if Tabata will give us any more explanations or emphasis as to like what is going on there with the Tengensu, like what the origin of that is. You know, I would be cool with it if he just leaves it mysterious. Because again, like, I don't want everything explained, because then the world will lose its mystery. But I would be happy with it too, right? So yeah. All right. So that was chapter 379. And it was honestly the chapter that I preferred among the both, purely for the amount of information, plot, and character moments that we get packed in there, right? But I gotta say, chapter 380 was no slog either, right? It was amazing as well. There were some great character moments for Yuno, Asta, and the Bulls. I loved Yami's confidence in Asta, which, once again, Jack the Goat, right? Jack Oates the Goat broke down phenomenally well, right? I'll link you guys to his Twitter in the description. Make sure you go check him out. But he says that he cannot stress enough that the fact that this series is about magic with strong theological undertones. Again, please go look up Jack's content. He's always on this stuff, and it's a fantastic read, right? Even if things don't come true or whatever, it's just as an idea, the points he raises are fantastic. Might even call them overtones, because they're mostly directly applicable to the circumstances of the plot and mechanics. Not saying that Yami is implying anything deeper than surface level belief in Asta, but it's that simple. Asta won't die. he's not even supposed to be here. I strongly believe that Asta is the master and dictator of his own fate, so much so that he placed himself in this era due to his own will. The goal of the manga is a self-birth from a barren womb, which are actual words from the occult. Put simply, there's more to Asta that's not been understood but has been shown. So again, barren womb does not mean literally barren womb, but in Lucida's case, it is pretty damn close. And you know, with all these strong theological undertones, I think that when we get a big revelation as to who Lucida is and what the whole deal with Asta's birth was, like what is the reason for her curse, I think that, you know, like people like Jack are going to be the ones that are winning, because he would be eating up the things that Tabata would give us. So, you know, shout out to Jack. Make sure you follow him. He has great ideas, right? But let's move on. Noelle's moment here too was fantastic, but unfortunately mistranslated, right? I'll tell you why it was fantastic. Apparently the Japanese has her saying that she's on her way to Asta once he sees him getting slashed, but this was translated into Asta. Now, it doesn't make sense at all, but you know, like looking at the original, I just love it. I just love that she was raring to go and protect her man. It's very similar to what happens when you know, Lucius slashes him and Noelle goes and, you know, tries to confront Lily and Lucius. But yeah, like it's a very similar moment, and I love it. Love that Noelle was just raring to go, like I said. And of course, the second best highlight of the chapter, right? The first best we'll get to, right? The best we'll get to. The second highlight of the chapter, the return of the Paladins. How incredible was that? This is something that I've been talking about for a while, right? It simply did not make sense to me to simply just wrap them up so cleanly. This, like, while it was expected, I am so happy that we got, because the Paladins were simply caricatures, man. And like, if you're not gonna give us more character development or whatever, like put our characters through the ringer. Like, the only one that did it well was like Morgan, right? And the other characters, like, yeah, like they were purely vehicles for character development for the other characters. But I just, like, give me better fights too. Like, honestly, the Aesir fight was just not interesting. So to have this demented versions of these characters battling, and like, it's great. Like, I want this, and I really like, I'm really enjoying this. And my goodness, the designs, dude, the biblically accurate angels vibe is just coming through cleanly. And the fact that he's also resurrecting the currently dead mages lying on the floor, turning them into monstrosities with like wings for ears, and just wow, man. Again, like, Lucius is showing us like some unbelievable work right here. I am curious to see how Tabata handles these fights again, though. Like, will we get new team ups against them? Will we get another issue by issue battle for them? The character writing is done, right, for the main people that are going to fight these characters. So like, since it'll just be action, will he simply treat them the same way that the Bulls battle have been treated? I'm not sure. I am curious. I also want to know if he's going to create new paladins. Like, is Lucida going to be a paladin? Is Jack going to be a paladin? Right? So I am curious as to what's going to happen over there. But finally, let's get to the main highlight of the chapter. YUNO motherfucking GRIMOIRE. Just insanity, dude. Like, there's a reason why he is the thumbnail today. I hate to do this again, but man, there's so much to say, dude, and I cannot contain it in this video. So I will tell you that his strength is incredibly odd, and I will be making a video on that, right? But like, from a meta-analysis point of view, people are frustrated. They're confused and feel betrayed that Asta isn't shown to be this powerful. But like, people, like, listen, dude, an omniscient being, Ryu, right? Like, he was surprised that YUNO was this powerful after undoing Neverland, meaning he was keeping up with post-Grimoire Lucius with only half his crown due to the exhaustion without anti-magic. And Ryu was surprised by all of this when he gets back the power that he was expending for Neverland. Again, like, with Repchi's chain magic, if Lucius catches YUNO off guard again using Geldrey's magic, he can defeat YUNO for sure, right? But just right now, it is breaking the reality of the story how powerful YUNO is, right? It just cannot be simply explained away by stating that he's burning his soul or life to do it, because Lucius himself said, no, that's not it. Like, even if he was doing that, he would not be this strong. And yeah, like, the whole Asta shaped the world is probably like the thematic reason why, but I feel like there's just something that's got to be a little bit more like tangible, right? We're told immediately that he cannot be this strong, right? There's simply something more, and I you know, if you are somebody who dislikes this, I would reserve judgment until we get to know what this is, and I will definitely make a video or a discussion video down the line for how crazy this is and if this is something that YUNO himself has been doing, right? All right, but now with that, let's get to anti-magic YUNO. well, if you've been reading the manga, this final arc, this was the most obvious thing ever. And in fact, it's surprising that it hadn't happened earlier, right after Asta came to the battlefield. If you're mad at this for Yuno but not the bulls, you're stupid. If you're mad at the concept because you think it's an ass pull, you've either not read the series or you're stupid. Or you've not caught up on the foreshadowing. If you understand the concept and don't have an issue with Yuno getting it but still think it's a bad idea, congratulations, because we are in agreement. I didn't like it then, I don't like it now, just as an idea, but you know, I did come to terms with it, with the bulls. So I don't know, man. I simply think it's incredibly cool right now, and it doesn't matter. And this is not his demon slayer, so the weight simply should not matter like people think it should. Like, oh, why does he have the sword, right? And since the properties of the sword is reversed, or like it's not like Asta is gonna, like, the sword is gonna absorb all the magic. Right now, Asta is using it in a way where anti-magic is expelled from it, right? So the person holding it is gonna absorb the anti-magic, right? So Yuno's magic is not getting absorbed. Libei's anti-magic is redirected out of the sword into Yuno. So the logic works, especially since we know that anti-magic can interact with magic and not cancel it out, despite how oxymoronic that statement and concept sounds. But like ultimately, that is how the rules of the series is worked. So logically, like, it makes sense, and for the character it makes sense, right? And for the stakes, it does make sense, right? Do I like it, like the fact that anti-magic is something that is shareable? No, right? Like, it's a fair enough problem to have, but just any other complaints, they're just so stupid. And like, I definitely have to make a video on the Yuno hate, dude. It's crazy. Like, how do people hate Yuno this much? Because you sound so stupid when you talk about how much you hate him because of the stupid reasons that you give. But finally, I gotta say, man, let's end with something positive. I simply love the final dialogues that we get in this chapter. Yuno's faith in his people, Asta's grit, Yuno's faith in Asta, it was sublime, and I loved it. I particularly loved the parallel with Asta's moment with Yuno, and the moment where Yuno at the end of the Lucifero fight is like, this is not the end, right? Also, he seems to have blinked Asta away to, I'd assume it was Mimosa, like I said in the beginning. And like, finally, I have to admit, this chapter increased the death flags by Yuno by a lot, right? For Yuno by a lot. It just simply feels like things are not going to look up for his character beyond this with regards to strength, and the loss of the elf soul would be the ultimate gut punch before the final fall of Lucius, right? So yeah, fantastic showing from Lucius, fantastic chapters from Tabata. Tabata's art, as usual, has been goddamn amazing. But what do you guys think? Did you really enjoy this chapter? Because I definitely did. I think the 379 is the better chapter in 380, while still fantastic. It's more of the typical Black Clover writing style that we've gotten in the previous chapters, where plot doesn't move, but you're getting the reactions, things are happening and things like that, and it's great. I am happy with this, and I really think that we can wait for 3 months for the next issue, because there's just so much that Tabata gave us, and again, you're going to see so many videos coming out from me. But with that said, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and I will see you in the next video. All right.